Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on every hero's lore in one sentence. A prince huffed so much raw gasoline that he became a first-wave goth. Two convicted felons started a drug operation after breaking out of prison. The raw manifestation of entropy is here, and he's running out of patience. His Tibetan monastery got by some wizards, and he didn't take it too well. His goal is to move Dota 2 to end of service by murdering his brothers, who just so happen to be the ancients themselves. A one-man mutiny powered by infinite bloodlust and not a single point of IQ. A god had a nightmare that was so bad that she lobotomized herself, and this is what fell out of her nose. A delinquent pulled an Uno reverse card on a giant bat attempting to eat him. An abusive king zookeeper developed telepathy, and he now lives out the Unabomber's dream. In the world of Dota 2, those Aztec blood gods are real, and their most devoted worshippers get super speed. Bounty Hunter is literally just a bounty hunter, and with so many stories about him, some of them might even be true. 99% of alcoholics quit right before they spontaneously become a monk. The remaining 99% still have a chance of losing a bar fight so hard it becomes their entire personality. She's a big ol' spider. Centaur culture reveres gladiators above all else, and he's the best murderer they've ever had. A plane-hopping personification of chaos whose most impressive feat is losing a fight to an old man. A TV mega-priest who figured out that vegetarians really do have it all figured out. A noble knight who saved his kingdom and was accidentally rewarded with infinitely burning to death. A watchmaker who converted his talents towards wanton violence, originally in self-defense, but now it's recreational. Lena's sister, who was sent to grow up on an iceberg and developed low-functioning BPD as a result. A tabletop wargamer ripped here from another dimension, whose great strategic prowess boils down to run away very fast. A Nepo baby who murdered her parents and ran away with the family pet for literally no reason. She's just built different. The personification of a celestial star whose goal is to turn every web application on permanent light mode. Imagine if your family doctor went to Burning Man and took so many drugs that he polymorphed into a wizard. A fortune teller who got jebaited by destiny itself and is now a living ghost. A return to tradition war wizard who grew up with a bunch of meathead brothers. Literally just Satan. The dude's name is Lucifer Morningstar. How much more on the nose can you possibly get? A knight went to slay a dragon, the dragon gave him a little nibble on the way out, and now he's an anamorph. A human archer who wears permanent blue face and is good at being quiet. That Chinese guy who was buried with all those terracotta soldiers has come back as a zombie, but he's chill about it. Some rocks got tired of being stepped on and decided to do something about it. Imagine if God himself came down from heaven just to smack you with a briefcase. The head monk was so good at kung fu that fire itself decided to reanimate him. Kinda like if Jane Goodall was half chimpanzee herself. A black hole got bored and decided to spend his days scamming wizards for no reason. An exchange student from an alternate dimension who is allegedly just here to steal rocks, but he seems mostly focused on violence. A town mayor who failed out of art school and decided to pull an Itachi Uchiha about it. The Dota equivalent of the Wright brothers, whose first thought upon achieving flight was that he could use this to really kickstart the war economy. A friendly little creature who developed intense and violent PTSD after a forest fire. Dazzle's pet project who was mad about being alive, which would put him in good company with Death Prophet. A boomer wizard who insists on the OG method of learning spells, which involves memorizing an entire book. The team mascot for Magnets, who uses its powers to hide in your walls. A two-headed dragon who is considered such a freak that he even bullies himself. His hometown sank into the sea, and he's here to make that everyone else's problem. The old man who keeps dunking on CK and Nightstalker, and there's a pretty good chance he cracked Dawnbreaker's mom, wherever she is. A revolutionary from Skyrath who actually pulled it off, and now uses his newfound glory to be annoying as shit. Not a pirate, he commanded a ship full of midgets who all died under his command, and for some reason he's allowed to stick around as a ghost. A city guard captain who successfully pulled off the time-honored military stratagem of yelling 1v1 me bro at the enemy commanding officer. A perfectly normal guy who spent way too much time on Live League, and he decided to end the world to prevent others from doing the same. An evil wizard who got thrown down a bottomless pit of water, developed the personality of a drag queen, and then got fished back up. an unfortunately immortal dude who got brainjacked by a wizard into seeking out the nearest golden corral. Crystal Maiden's sister, who was sent to live in a desert and became a thought daughter as a result. A warrior priest who got seduced by a demon, killed that demon, and decided to stay evil anyway. A homeless man whose crackpipe dream is to wait for the world to end so he can plant some tomatoes. A psychopath who got co-opted by the most violent religious organization you've ever seen. Another Nepo baby who was condemned to death, but the king wisely chose to turn him into a Super Saiyan dog at the last minute for no goddamn reason. The last remaining fail son of his people, he now spends his days killing poachers for fun. She's literally just a girl. The actual Mars from real-life lore, except he's even stupider than the Romans likely envisioned. Her sisters were all killed for their beauty, so she found sympathetic refuge in Dworkin-esque radical feminism. A dickhead with a shovel who found the Dota equivalent of a winning lottery ticket on the floor of a parking garage. She runs the PR department of the same violent religion that Luna belongs to. Literally Sun Wukong but stupider, similar to Mars. A comet full of water crashed on Earth, and the water is pissed about it. A victim of Wild West violence who channeled her righteous anger into being a ghost. The Fish King's favorite sippy cup went missing, and somehow that's her fucking problem. Imagine the Lorax, but he has a gun. A corrupt priest who was so good at getting sick that the disease said screw it, and drafted him into service. Another dark mode warrior who, instead of ever teaming up with CK, has chosen to cope and seethe for all eternity. This bug is the specialist little meow meow of them all, which means he gets to give brain aneurysms to magic users. The brightest mind of a species that canonically attempts to reproduce with rocks. People call him Dota Jesus, but his lore is actually more reminiscent of St. Francis of Assisi, including the bit about fistfighting. A fortune teller who dodged DP's fate by trolling everybody else on Destiny's behalf. An alien centaur who is here to establish himself as the biggest hater the world has ever seen. A swashbuckling bisexual renowned as the greatest aura farmer in all the land. A council of assassins decided to see what would happen if they gave their brightest pupil both mommy and daddy issues. A furry fisherman who was drafted into service, low-diffed the evil wizard, and went right back to fishing, like the based boomer he is. Coddle's pet bird, who totally kills all those innocent people on accident. The last surviving dinosaur has broken free, and he's pissed. An unmedicated Zoomer fairy dragon with both blue hair and pronouns. A big fat cannibal who realized that he could just loot battlefields instead of doing any of the work himself. The Dalai Lama rolled a nat 1 and reincarnated as an evil baby who thinks slavery is awesome. Some guy hired a succubus without reading the fine print and overdosed on the results. The prison warden of purgatory whose life's work consists of bullying people who are already dead. The last remaining member of a royal family who, instead of abusing his privilege, chose to become a hitman. A sadistic torture robot who might just be the most fucked up guy in this entire game. A Nepo baby who challenged every other wizard in the world to a dick measuring contest. And won. The personification of a desert who primarily signs trade agreements, but he moonlights as a magical murder machine. Say what you will about him being a demonic cult leader who practices human sacrifice. At least he's honest about it. A demonic bounty hunter who eats your soul, which sustainably allows him to eat even more souls. A traveling sideshow companion who crashed out after being forced to turn into a chicken one too many times. A failed magical eugenics project who wound up being the Dota equivalent of a blank from 40k. A royal guard wizard of the bird people who just sat there and watched as the crown princess, who was also his girlfriend, got murdered and acts like that somehow makes him a good person. The same as Naga Siren, except he actually knows how to do his job. He figured out how to break out of fish Alcatraz before learning how to have sex. An old lady who just wants to bake cookies, and somehow this isn't working out for her. A gun dude who was so good at gun that the other dudes all told him to fuck off. A ghost who thinks violence is dope and is almost definitely Phantom Assassin after a few visits to a therapist. Another exchange student similar to OD, but it seems like he's having fun at least. Some random guy did a rain dance and then beat a storm elemental at a meet-off, taking its power for his own. A bodybuilder slept with a fish, and it resulted in the most justified edgy atheist in history. There's not really any lore for techies. They're just sort of like that. The good version of Phantom Assassin who trades parental issues for kleptomania. The biggest and scariest demon of them all who used all that edge to cut his way out of demon jail. Once a champion of his people, Tidehunter said screw this noise, and is now an underwater murder hobo. Carries a completely justified case of psychotic PTSD after trees killed his family, somehow making him one of the most sympathetic characters in all of Dota. Literally the plot of Half-Life 1, even down to the voice actor. The chances of a rock spontaneously developing sentience for an unknown reason are low, but not zero. Tiny's motivation is to figure out why the hell that is. A recon unit of the greater treant population chosen to explore the world because he was the fastest. He was so toxic that he got kicked out of his mom's basement, got beat up by his friends, and then killed them all in a supreme act of baby rage. He's the one who beat Bristle in a bar fight and decided to go pro afterward. An underground king who is Dota's closest equivalent to a Saturday morning cartoon villain. While being sacrificed to a god of death, he began freestyling so hard that the god itself deputized him. A total mama's boy who heard that somebody was talking shit. I wrote a little bit about Dota 2's character design in relation to many popular fantasy tropes. Feel free to read it if you like. The crown princess of the bird people who got murked by her own sister and crashed out so hard that the god of crash outs revived her just to keep it going. Some dude went on a walk to find spices, got stung by a bee, passed out for 17 years, and woke up as this thing. Some kind of weird poisonous cave bat who got kidnapped by Pugna, then staged a jailbreak by spitting in his eyes. When Razor boofs his job and someone escapes purgatory, this is the guy who cleans up his mess. The oldest of the spirits, Void is the anti-Chud, who spends his days making poor attempts to convince everyone that something is going to happen. Somehow, this is Dota's equivalent to Indiana Jones, and he's so based he got fired from his job as a professor. Created the timeline that Dota 2 takes place in, which made his co-workers so disgusted that they pushed him off a cliff. Her village was massacred by wind elementals, and they gave her wind powers as restitution. But joke's on them, because she wasn't even mad in the first place. An aspiring writer who, by virtue of being a giant ice wyvern, discovered she's actually a lot better at killing. A somewhat racist caricature that nobody really cares about, because he really is just a chill guy. Imagine if the biggest narcissist you can imagine came back as a ghost. Copyright infringement on a Greek god, horniness included. In conclusion, Dota heroes are historic, and you should absolutely play them. It's my personal headcanon that the dimension that Darkseer comes from is actually full of normal people, and even over there, he's the only person with a big pointy purple head. Peace on planet Earth.